All right, let's talk about something interesting. For a solid 5 years, if you bought Apple's best laptop, you were also buying a world of pain. We're going to unpack the whole dramatic saga of the MacBook Pro's ports. It's really a story about a war between two big ideas, beautiful design versus, actually getting stuff done. Yeah, you remember it, don't you? Dongle Hell. I can almost hear the collective groan. That feeling of needing a whole separate pouch of adapters just to do your job on a laptop that was supposed to be for professionals. It was chaos, for sure. And believe it or not, this whole mess started because of a deep philosophical war raging inside Apple. And right here, this is the heart of the whole thing. For literally decades, Apple has had these two competing ideas fighting for control. You've got utility on one team, the idea that a pro machine needs to be a Swiss Army knife, a complete toolkit. And then on the other side, you've got minimalism, this relentless, almost obsessive drive to make things thinner and simpler, no matter what. So to really get why everyone freaked out in 2016, we got to go back in time a little bit, to the good old days. The period between 2012 and 2015, a lot of people call this the golden age of the MacBook Pro. It was just perfect. It was the undisputed champion, the ultimate workhorse. And look at this. This wasn't just a random collection of ports. No, this was a list of solutions to real-world problems. You had your regular USB for, well, everything. Thunderbolt for the heavy-duty pro stuff. HDMI to plug into any TV or projector, just like that. And an SD card slot, a lifesaver for every photographer out there. It was basically a portable creative studio, ready to go, no extras needed. And then there was this thing, MagSafe. What a masterpiece. It was so simple, so elegant, but unbelievably practical. That satisfying click when it snapped on, that little charging light, but the real genius? It saved countless laptops from flying off tables when someone tripped on the cord. It was just peak Apple, brilliant design that actually helped you.
But here's the thing. While all of us were out here enjoying this perfect machine, a totally different idea was taking over inside Apple's famous design studio. Under the leadership of the legendary Johnny Ive, the goals started to shift. It wasn't about utility anymore. The new obsession? Thinness, above all else.
And you can see the whole story play out right here. It started small, back in 2008 with the first MacBook Air, the one Steve Jobs pulled out of an envelope. It was a niche laptop, so losing some ports for that incredible thinness, it kind of made sense. But then that idea started to spread. It led to the 2015 12-inch MacBook, which was this super radical experiment, an experiment that unfortunately was about to become the master plan for their most important computer.
Just one. One single port. Let that sink in. You literally could not charge your laptop and plug in a USB drive at the same time. Not without a dongle. It was just a wild compromise. Apple was trying to force this wireless future on everyone, but the world just wasn't there yet. And this was the thinking they were about to bring to the MacBook Pro.
So yeah, all of this was building up to a single moment, the climax of our story. The year is 2016. Apple takes this extreme minimalist experiment and forces it on their flagship computer, the machine for pros. And that, right there, is when everything went sideways. I mean, just look at this. The difference is absolutely insane. On one side, you have the 2015 model, a complete toolkit. On the other, the 2016 model, just 4 identical USB-C ports. And yeah, they were powerful in theory, but in the real world of 2016, they couldn't connect to pretty much anything a pro used without an adapter. MagSafe? Gone. HDMI? Gone. The SD card reader? Vanished.
So, what was Apple's official reason for doing this? One word: courage. Yep, they said it took courage to get rid of old ports and push everyone towards this new, single standard.
That was the line, anyway.
But for pretty much everyone else, courage was not the word they were using. For loyal users, it felt like a total betrayal. The company that literally built its brand on making tools for creative pros had just released a pro laptop that couldn't actually connect to any of their pro gear. It was mind-boggling. And this is the key thing to understand, right? Apple was designing for a future that just wasn't here yet. The reality was, cameras used SD cards, meeting rooms had HDMI cables, and pretty much every single accessory in the world, drives, mice, keyboards, they all used that good old standard USB-A plug. So suddenly, being a pro meant you had to live in this constant state of dongle chaos, just carrying around a tangled mess of white plastic adapters to do your job.
And for 5 long years, Apple just dug in their heels. They insisted this was the future, that this was the right way. But then, in 2021, something amazing happened. Apple did something it almost never does. They admitted they made a mistake. Maybe not in so many words, but their actions spoke volumes.
Okay, so they show off the new machine, and the first thing people notice? It's a tiny bit thicker. And why is that? Boom, the HDMI port is back. Just like that. No more panic searching for a dongle 5 minutes before you have to give a presentation.
And then you could almost hear a collective sigh of relief from every photographer and video editor on the planet. The SD card reader. It was back. A simple, critical part of their workflow was restored.
And finally, the one we were all waiting for. The big one. Yes, MagSafe was back. And the reaction from the community was, no exaggeration, like thunderous applause. That beloved, safe, satisfying little magnetic connector, it had made its grand return.
So, after this whole 5-year war between these two ideas, who won? Well, for a pro machine, it's clear. Utility won. Apple finally seemed to understand that shaving off a millimeter of thickness just isn't worth years of frustration and inconvenience for the people who actually use these things to make a living.
And that brings us right up to today. The MacBook Pro we have now. It's like a healthy truce has been called. You still get those super powerful, future-proof Thunderbolt ports for all your high-end gear, but you also get the everyday convenience ports that just let you get your work done without thinking about it. It really is the best of both worlds.
But this whole crazy story leaves us with one last, really important question. Okay, so now you have both an HDMI port and a Thunderbolt port. They can both plug into a monitor, right? So why is that Thunderbolt port still technically light years more powerful than the HDMI port sitting right next to it? Well, understanding that, that's the real key to getting the most out of your machine.